How many times have you heard the first reading in the course of a wedding? When a priest is presiding over a nuptial mass or even a wedding without the mass itself, he has in the back of his mind a question mark. Will it succeed? And if so, in what measure? Sometimes he has the intuition that it might not, and sometimes he is pleasantly surprised. But alas, not infrequently, he is disappointed, even actually sometimes in good Christian couples. Hence, the depth of this first reading, in which all the elements of relationship are handled, is everlasting. Envy, subtly there. I remember hearing a minister in Wales saying to me one time in Welsh, envy or jealousy is one of the most profound elements in human life. Selfishness, the reason essentially why many marriages do not work. Two centers of their own solar system. They come in with that center of gravity which never shifts. Well, it's not quite like that. When one enters into a monastery made of two, it's heroic. One has to enter into the skin of the other, get into that person's psyche, think what he or she is thinking, anticipate the consequences, intuit. Intuit in Latin means to see inside. Is not puffed up. Do you know that in recent times, in the Anglican Church, it's not as it used to be in the parish? Because whereas before, when I was growing up, because my best friend was the son of an Anglican clergyman, I spent hours in the presbytery, whereas before things were clearly demarked. Dad was PP and Mam was the bridge with the community. Now, very often you've got Dad and Mam with a round collar. Two centres, and although not evidently so, underground there are bound to be hidden dynamics of he's doing better than I am in it. And everywhere one goes in human life, this element is there, puffed up. All this comes back to what Paul is saying. No matter what one is doing or performing, if we are not burning, ardeam, if we're not on fire with love, we're on the outside of ourselves. We are functioning, and even in the ministry we can function very well. Function. As a human soul goes through life, if this element of charity is not there, that soul is bound all the time to get itself into trouble. If that soul is a soul of warmth and love and compassionate regard on the deepest level, that soul is going generally to succeed in the battle of life. Why? He's not going to be hurting others and therefore himself. And a lot of the problems in either marriage or in society come from the fact that we're handling people who are hurting themselves. Every time that something comes out of our soul and causes hurt, there is hurt left inside. Do you know that the principle of the jet engine is that there is an equal force in the opposite direction, and therefore it propels itself by emitting great energy in the opposite direction? Oomph! So too, anything that we emit and jettison out of our inner system is leaving its oomph inside us, and that builds up. What do? Often we don't face it. We place a smoke screen. Make sure that we're never isolated with our thoughts. Anything but being alone with our thoughts. Do you know that even, alas, in the consecrated life, in monasteries and convents, one can function very, very well, to the extent that one can pull the wool over the eyes of those who might come to see a glorious celebration, and they might not be charity. Italy is fond of Technicolor, and the more dramatic it is, the better it goes down in the main news. Just a few years ago, I was in Italy, and I picked this up. The other morning, the postman had been going to deliver the mail to the local convent. This is somewhere in Italy. As he came down the lane, in this fairly enclosed convent from what I can make out, he firstly distinguished distant, unpleasant and strange noises. As he drew closer to deliver the mail, he began to, as we would say, cop on to what was going on. There was, it would seem, a slight difference of opinion within a certain sector of that holy convent. And as he got closer, he could pick up that the thing was something approaching the best of Agatha Christie, and it was getting higher and higher and higher. And he thought, this is actually getting dangerous, even though I can't see what's going on. I've got a pretty idea what's going to go on. And he called the carabinieri, the Gardaí, who had to come in and sort out these holy nuns before they did harm to each other. Great stuff on Italy television, prime time. But don't think, my friends, that we're necessarily excluded from that danger ourselves. It can happen, you know, that we can be saying the rosary in the family just a few seconds after sending an indirect, usually, dagger into the heart of a spouse or even a child. My friends, do you think Our Lady and our Lord are happy with that rosary until that dagger has been taken out and the wound healed up? Let's get this straight. The one heart loves all, and there's no one compartment for upwards and the other for outwards. We can't love unless we're loving all concerned and regarding all as the living tabernacles of the Most High. Because when we come to Him here, with those thoughts in our heart and those words left at the front door, He's still listening to them. So I just finish with this, my friends. The Lord, when He left us, gave His last testimony. It was not very complicated. A new commandment I give unto you, and by this will they know that you are my disciples. Think about that next time you open your volcanic trap and emit poison.